what's happening? Hugo Mendez with Chaskis here, and if you've been watching these videos, you know that I'm currently training to complete the Dirty Kanza 200 this year. And as part of this journey, I'm releasing a series of videos where you will learn through my own experience how to get ready for it. Now, we're currently living in extraordinary times, of course. The coronavirus pandemic has impacted our lives dramatically in so many ways. It has changed our routines, it has changed our plans, it has changed our lifestyle. People are feeling overwhelmed, stressed out, anxious. I know I am. Personally, it's not been easy to keep following my training routine to complete the DK. The last couple of weeks have been less than ideal training-wise. So I decided to reach out to my coach, Ali Bracy, and ask her how to cope with times like this, how to stay focused, how to put things in perspective, how to keep following my training plan. On this video, Adi shares the advice that she gives to her athletes, including me, on how to make the best out of times like the ones we're living right now. And if you're new to the Chaskis channel, make sure to click that subscribe button and also hit that bell to be notified when I release new videos. And if you're not following Chaskis on Instagram, just go there, look for @Chaskiup. I'm always posting content relating on my journey to complete the Dirty Kanza 200. All right, here are my main takeaways from my conversation with my coach on how to stay focused, motivated during extraordinary times like the ones that we're living right now.
Honestly, the first thing that I've been suggesting is allowing yourself to be a little bit frustrated and recognize that this is a hard time, whether that's not being able to get outside or get to facilities to train the way you want to, not because even it's for a race, but just, mental health. And that's how a lot of us deal with stress and cope with stress, and to kind of have that maybe be hindered or taken away, it is tough. And obviously there's a lot of financial insecurities and instabilities, and us not knowing how long we're going to be in this situation. So I think there's a lot of content out there about staying positive and, banding together and all that. And I completely agree, but I do also think it's okay to give yourself a little bit of room to recognize that it's hard and it's frustrating, not to spend too much time there, but I think it is okay to feel that, but then to recognize, okay, well, what am I going to do about it, or what can I do about it? And then putting the majority of your energy into that. I think there can be a lot of pressure sometimes where we can feel guilty if we're having an emotion that maybe we feel like we shouldn't be having. But, I think that that's a lot of pressure, to suggest that we shouldn't recognize how we're being impacted. Honestly, it's kind of funny because as soon as I do that, kind of the byproduct of it is, well, there's so many people that have it worse. And it doesn't mean that it's insignificant that, my work's being affected and races are being affected and, sponsorships might be affected, and those are real things. But I still have a job and I still have a home, and it almost kind of inadvertently puts things in perspective for me to let myself feel that and recognize, like, well, okay, actually things aren't that bad. They're hard, but I'm doing okay. And that kind of, shifts me into that more productive, positive mindset, I think.
You've been dealing with some injuries, and so it's not been easy for the last, what would you say, couple of months maybe? For a month and for you, right?
Yeah. I was kind of having a pity party last night a little bit, but in a joking way, I was injured for 2 months going into this, and now, don't have access to the treatment that I was getting that was putting me back on track, and kind of stuck at home without the ability to get work done or see the PT I was seeing, which is, again, so insignificant compared to what some other people were facing. But it is easy to kind of spiral down this, poor me kind of mindset, and then bringing yourself back to like reality. And like you mentioned, you're one of my athletes, and I have gained a lot of just support for sharing in that same situation with others. You're in a situation where your race might get canceled, and I've had other athletes whose races have been canceled, and banding together, and not like in a misery loves company kind of way, but just, we're all being impacted, and there's not a single athlete in any sport in the entire world that's not being impacted. Just support and encourage each other instead of thinking that you're isolated and the only one that's kind of struggling with the situation. Well, I think the first thing that I always say, period, is training's cumulative. You know, you don't just train for a couple of weeks and then if something gets derailed, then it was all in vain. You know, that doesn't happen. It's something that builds over time, and it's never worth nothing. So, you know, you may not have gotten to put your hard work to test on the day of the race that was originally planned, but that doesn't mean that there weren't still things gained from it, that you didn't get stronger. I try to look at it as a chance to develop, you know, mental skills to deal with adversity, to recognize that, okay, now there's this luxury of you have more time on your hands. You know, you have more time before your next race. So maybe what is it that we could have been missing? And so instead of using this time as a chance to worry that you're losing fitness or that training, the training was lost, instead you can build on that and think like, okay, well, now I'll have the opportunity to take a step back and say, well, what even more can I be adding to my routine? So training is something you build over weeks and months and years, and it doesn't just go away. This is such a good time to challenge yourself, and routine and consistency are great, but you can also kind of get lazy in your decision making, if that makes sense. Like you might even be doing all the right things in your routine, but if you're never presented with a challenge or presented with an alternative to what you're used to, then you're not kind of developing the habits and the self-control and you know, to make active decisions that are good for you. So I think it's a good thing to be presented with a situation where it's not easy to make the right decisions. You know, it sounds sometimes nice to just, you know what, I don't even have to get out of my pajamas today. I can just watch Netflix. Maybe I'll have a few beers. That sounds so much better than trying to make the best of the situation. But, you know, you don't grow from that, and you don't develop other strengths from that. So it's not easy, and I think it's okay to maybe let things slip sometimes, but it's also a good time to challenge yourself to make the right call and to just develop more intentional habits versus just like routine habits, I guess. When I start to spiral into anxiety or worry, I always ask myself two questions, and it's one, does this feel good? And two, is this productive? And so, you know, if you're kind of bombarding yourself with information, if you're enjoying it and it's got like a positive impact, okay, maybe continue doing that. But if the answer is no, it's like, God, all this is doing is making me more worried and more anxious. And is it productive? Like, is this helping? Is this giving me more information related to my controllables? Is this giving me more information about how to be going through my days right now? And if the answer is no, then to both of those questions, kind of what's the point? So it can kind of take you out of that moment of recognizing the impact. I think a lot of us don't step back to take a look at kind of the cause and effect of our actions. You know, I'm doing this and it's making me feel like this. If I don't want to feel like that, then I need to stop doing whatever X was. Creating a routine for yourself, not just for the actual direct benefits that you're going to get from that routine, but also it's building in a mechanism to like hold your attention in places that, if they're not useful, at least is taking you away from the things that are, super unproductive and super anxiety inducing. Just keep yourself busy. I think that's the thing that's easy, is to kind of just get stagnant. Controlling your controllables. And I think that's a phrase that's tossed around a lot, but has a lot of utility to it if you can kind of figure out how to fit that into your life. But I always tell everyone, I always describe this as like, you know, worry and anxiety, it's a pretty human trait, right? There's not, most animals in the animal kingdom aren't experiencing anxiety and worry. And that's because we're able to kind of think into the future and think like, how's our economy going to be in 6 months? How is my race going to get canceled? How am I going to pay my bills because I lost my job? All these really worst case scenarios that need to be thought about and need to be considered. But kind of the downfall of that is that we as humans sometimes don't know how to turn it off, or how to not go beyond the productive part of considering those things. You know, the the reasons why we as a human species have that ability is to consider a possible scenario in the future and then make a plan for it. But if we're just considering scenarios that we don't have control over, we're just producing anxiety.
Right.
So what I like to do is, let yourself go through that process. That's, again, it's okay to be concerned about all the things we just mentioned. But I think you said earlier that you write it down for your day too. And I love that. So thinking about, okay, with everything I'm anxious about or worried about, or all the things in the future that I'm considering, which parts of that do I actually have control over? And then writing those things down. Okay, so these are the things I have control over. What are the little daily commitments and actions I can take every day to work towards those things, and kind of make your little list of like, okay, well, this is what I can do today. And then when you find yourself stressing or worrying or having anxiety about something that didn't make your list, that's not on your list of controllables, you kind of just have to let it go. And that's easier said than done sometimes, but it's not serving you to think about it. But, I think there can be some kind of autonomy or empowerment by committing to the things that you can control. That's why I'm kind of big on writing things down, because it does feel really good. Not only does it kind of give you some direction for your day, but it makes you feel good to look back on your day and say, oh, wow, like that's an instant gratification to look back and see, like, I did all the things I said I was going to do today. And I think, in a time like right now, we need to harness those little joys and, have as much of that in our days as we can.
I hope you find this advice as useful as I did. How about you? How are you dealing with this whole coronavirus pandemic situation right now? Do you have any other advice, or would you like to share your own personal experience? Let me know your advice and your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this content useful, don't forget to click that subscribe button, like this video, or share it with a friend. Also, don't forget to follow Chaskis on Instagram. That is @Chaskiup. Just go there, send me a DM. Let me know how you are dealing with this whole coronavirus thing. I would love to hear from you, because we are all in this together. We are gonna kick coronavirus's butt together. We're gonna Chaskiup together.